Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece Arabasta Saga Little Garden Arc, episode 73, Brogy Whales and Victory, Elbaf's Judgment. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens within this episode. So the episode begins with Dory trapping Luffy under a rock while apologizing for suspecting him, as he's realized Luffy didn't do it and neither did his crew. Because they are now aware that there's someone else on the island, they do start to suspect potentially that it is Baroque Works, having followed them to the island. Karu runs off and is cornered by Miss Valentine and Mr. Five, who try to make him squawk to lure out Luffy and Miss Wednesday, but Karu, being the upstanding individual that he is, does not do so and refuses to, which ultimately leads to him being beaten up and brought by Miss Valentine and Mr. Five to where Luffy is trapped, and they had honestly thought of Luffy as the most dangerous, therefore the fact that he's trapped is considered a positive. Vivi tries to attack and stop them and fails. And Usopp, who had been at Brogy's camp, he and Nami ended up having to run away from a dinosaur. However, then Nami is lured away by a wax figure painted to look like Luffy, and Usopp is too afraid to go and check on what happened to her after hearing her scream, assumes she was eaten by the dinosaur, and continues to run looking for Luffy, eventually finding him. He also tries to stop Miss Valentine and Mr. Five, but fails to do so. And they do note that he is not on their assassination list, but as he's clearly friends with the Straw Hats, they decide he has to be defeated anyways. Zoro is dragging his hunting kill towards where he believes the ship to be, though heavily implied that he is lost because he was using the trees with vines for his directions, and like all the trees have vines, so fairly certain he is once again lost. But he sees a wax figure painted to look like Nami, and he goes over to it, implying, of course, that he's also been captured. Vivi, because they failed to fight Miss Valentine, Mr. Five, is captured. And Brogy and Dory, while all of this is going on, continue their fight. Dory actually is putting up a really good fight despite his damage. However, Mr. Three gets bored with waiting and decides to once again interfere, and he sends Wax out to make Dory slip, which leads to Brogy being able to land a blow on him. And then Brogy, of course, starts crying because, now his friend, who he's fought 100 years, who he didn't even remember the reason why, it's finally done, and there's like a wash of, I guess, relief and grief that comes with this ending. And then, Mr. Three comes out and is like, oh, you're welcome for like me helping you. And obviously that's not what he wanted to hear. And then his legs get trapped in some wax as well. But that's everyone's status by the end of this episode. So now that we've been reminded what happened in the episode, we will now rank the episode first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. And it starts with our resolved battle between Dory and Brogy, round 2. This one with Brogy winning due to outside interference, worth 2 points. Then we have the multi-arc supporting character growth, and this is worth 3 points each. One for Mr. Five, who uses a new type of bomb, a kick bomb, and then Mr. Three, who makes his wax figures. Then we have the multi-arc main character development, worth 4 points, which is Luffy being trapped under a rock by Dory to prevent him from trying to interfere in the battle. That brings us up to 12, but we do have some negative messaging or behavior to consider. First, we have more interference, cheating, using wax to trip Dory, who's actually holding his own in the fight. Terrible, so minus 2 points. Self-harm, Luffy at one point goes a little insane and decides to start banging his head on the ground, and it's like, great idea. Give yourself brain damage. That's going to help somebody. Obviously, it's not. Self-harm's never good, and it does absolutely nothing to increase value at all. And I know it's probably to show the intensity of his emotions outwardly because, how else is the audience going to know that he is in distress unless he himself puts himself into extreme distress by banging his head on the ground repeatedly. And he is made of rubber, so I doubt it's doing much brain damage, but still not a great look, so I took 2 points for that. And then animal cruelty. Obviously, Karu is a very intelligent animal, but he is still an animal, and it is established he is an animal. He can't speak or anything. And, he's a bird among birds, especially we'll find that out later. Like, he does some great things in the Arabasta arc that just prove he is amazing. Best bird in the series. But you know, he's there. At first, he's too terrified to speak. Then they want him to lure Vivi, and he completely refuses, shakes his head, closes his beak, ends up beaten up for it, and obviously, Mr. Five and Miss Valentine beat up a bird. That is animal cruelty if I've ever seen it. So I took 2 points for that as well, and ultimately that leaves us with 6 points for this episode. That brings our mostly objective ranking to in first, Prehistoric Island, The Shadow Lurking in Little Garden, Humongous Battle, The Giants, Dory and Brogy. This episode comes in third, Brogy Wails in Victory, Elbeth's Judgment, and then Luffy's Anger, A Dirty Trick in a Sacred Battle. My personal ranking for this episode. I had some difficulty deciding whether it should be a 7 or an 8. I mean, we've got, Baroque Works making their move. The plot's really progressing. We've got a couple of battles. We've got some of the crew members being captured. We have a lot that's happening. So we're finally moving the story along. A lot less slice of life moments. In fact, I don't think there's really any slice of life moments within this episode. It's all plot based, driving forward that main plot, which makes it a lot more exciting as an episode. I did feel like the entertainment value was there, but I also felt some frustration. And there were, of course, negatives. I mean, why are you hurting the bird? That's so rude. Car is adorable and wonderful and should not be hurt, so I'm upset by that. I did think the wax figures to lure Nami and Zoro were kind of funny moments. Zoro, of course, being lost, that's kind of his comedic bit that recurs multiple times, is anytime he goes and separates from the crew to look for something, he's nowhere where he's supposed to be ever, which is obviously a great character trait. But Luffy being stuck, that also basically takes out one of the main fighters. However, Vivi and Usopp's resistance was, at this point in time, very pathetic. And so it was a little bit disappointing, especially because you know that they can do better, at least Usopp can. I think Vivi pretty much always is fairly poor when it comes to combat ability. I have no idea how she rose in the ranks up to like Miss Wednesday because she really does not have much combat ability at all. Doesn't do like any damage ever, really. She just runs at people with her spinny peacock things and then gets defeated instantly. Is essentially her modus operandi. It's what happens to her every time. And it does get a little bit annoying, especially because she's the one who's always so high strung and we need to do something, do something, do something, and then she's useless and can't do anything. And it's just like, seriously, stop talking. Anyways, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Vivi. I mean, I like the character design with the blue hair and, I do understand why she's stressed. But at the same time, my personal philosophy in life is if you cannot influence the outcome, just don't worry about it. Saves you a ton of stress to do it that way. So she's basically the opposite of me, where she is stressing about things she has no control over, cannot do anything about, and it is causing her to spiral and be very annoying. However, like I said, there's a lot of progress. There was the battle. It's upsetting that it was interfered with, but also that shows the plot moving on. Brogy finally finds out about Dory. after he's won and he's crying and it's sweet. Karu's upstanding. Many of the crew are now captured. Like, I just think this is a great episode setting us up for where the arc's going to be in its like finale. And I was debating again, 7 or 8, 7 or 8. Ultimately, I decided on 8 because I do think it is better than the 2 episodes that I put at 7 earlier. And that is why it is in first place, with Brogy Whales in victory, Elbaf's judgment, humongous battle, the giant story and Brogy, prehistoric island, the shadow lurking little garden, and then in fourth, Luffy's anger, a dirty trick, and a sacred battle. Bringing us now to the saga rankings so far. On both lists, Reverse Mountain Arc is in first, Whiskey Peak in second, and Kobe and Helmeppo in third. On the mostly objective side and also the personal side, Little Garden Arc now has 23 points each out of 80, bringing us to our series ranking, where East Blue is in first. Arabasta on the mostly objective has 18 points, and on the personal side has 12 points. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked One Piece Arabasta Saga Little Garden Arc, Episode 73, Brogy Whales and Victory, Elbaf's Judgment. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Oh yeah, and something I had forgotten to say in multiple episodes, including this one, is I wonder why, with all the human skulls and bones lying around, that there isn't at least one log pose that's set to the island that's been sitting there for however many years, as these people clearly died long enough ago to decompose, so over a year ago. I just feel like that's a bit of a hole in the story, in the plot, why they're having to stay for a year when they could probably just salvage or scavenge one of the log poses from one of the numerous crews that didn't make it. Anyways, having said that, I'm ending the episode.